Thanks for joining us here at RoqooDepot.com. We have with us author Martha Wells. Currently you have around 20 books under your belt, including your short story collections. How do you continue going about improving your craft as a writer?
It just takes practice and doing a lot of reading. I like to read authors that are new to me and kind of who use different techniques and different voices and I'm just continuing to try to push myself to write different things and kind of just explore my own writing as far as I can.
Among all the books you've written, you did 2 that were YA novels, Emilie and the Hollow World and Emilie and the Sky World. Mm-hmm. Are there any plans to return to that series?
I would like to. They came out from Strange Chemistry, which was the YA line of Angry Robot, and it shut down. And when I get the rights to the books back, I'd certainly consider writing a 3rd one because I did kind of have one in mind. So, yeah, I would like to do that at some point, but it's probably not going to be within the next year or so.
How did the Adventures of Emilie come about?
I wanted to try a YA book, and I just wrote that first chapter really quickly. I came up with the idea of the world and the young girl who was running away, and I wanted to do for a long time, I wanted to do kind of a Jules Verne-esque Hollow World adventure where you go down and they go to the center of the earth, but with ships and everything. So it just kind of all came together at the right moment.
Your next book you have coming out is The Harbors of the Sun, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Will this be the last of the Raksura books, or at least a stopping point for a while?
Yeah, it'll be the last of the books with Moon and Jade and Stone and all them. I will probably return to that world, but it'll probably be with different characters.
Would it still be with the Raksura, or maybe a different one?
Maybe some different Raksura, maybe at a different time period. I'm just not sure yet, but I definitely want to go back to that world.
Okay.
But I think I've kind of followed that storyline of those characters as far as I can go right now. I may think up something in the future, because you can never tell, and also I might do novellas or short stories set earlier in the timeline, especially maybe with Moon alone or with Stone, some of his adventures, earlier adventures.
In the books, there are no humans. Everyone's kind of an alien or fantastical creature. What was your motivation in going that route with the series?
It's been so long, I can't remember exactly what sparked it off, because I started writing the book. It came out in 2011, and I think I started writing it in 2009. It took 2 years to sell it, basically about a year to write it and 2 years to sell it. I had come up with the idea for another novel with shapeshifters that shifted between the Raksura-like form and human form, and were in a sort of a whole different context, and they were sort of a secondary part of this other story. And when I started working on that, I came up with the character of Moon and was kind of working on his backstory, and I was just thinking, well, this backstory is really a lot more interesting to me and intriguing than the storyline of the book I'm working on, so maybe I should just switch over and just do that. And when I started working on that, the original idea for that world had been that there were basically no humans there, and he had been forced into human form in this other world. And I kind of dropped that aspect, but kept up the shape-shifting aspect, and just, decided to kind of push it as far as I could and make it just as different as I could. Because I wanted to do something different from the other books I'd done, which were more, they're secondary world fantasy, but they get labeled as historical fantasy because the world is very like Europe and France and so forth. So I just wanted to do something completely different.
What was the original story you were working on?
It was a group of people. It was kind of a world not too different from Ilrien, I think, and that's probably one of the problems with the story. It was sort of more early 1900s and kind of in the technology, and it was a group of people who were with a sorcerer, and they were trying to go to this place to discover something. Again, it's been so long, I'm having trouble recalling the plot. But Moon had been captured from from his world and brought to their world by the sorcerer who was their opponent. And they ended up sort of accidentally rescuing him right before they left, and he went along. And then the others, including the character who was going to be Stone, came in, and Jade came and rescued him at some point, and there was a conflict between them.
So that idea actually got abandoned in favor of the
yeah. I've actually taken bits and pieces. I think I wrote like 2 or 3 chapters, and I've taken bits and pieces of it. Bits and pieces of it went into Emilie, and been reused for different things. So it'd be really hard to go back to it now because it's kind of been cannibalized for other books.
Did you ever worry that the lack of humans would make it hard for readers to connect with the characters or the world?
No, I didn't think of that at all because it's really not. I like books about non-human characters, and I liked, when I was a long time ago, I think I read, when they first came out, C.J. Cherry's Chenier books, where they're science fiction and it's all they're all different aliens, and the group that you're following is kind of cat-like aliens, and they accidentally rescue a human who has been visiting from someplace else and has been trapped on the space station, and then kind of and there's forces that are after him. It's a really good story, but it's from their perspective, the aliens' perspective, and so it's all, they've never seen a human before. So it's like, I always liked books like that, and there's one called Leviathan's Deep by J.H. Carr. I read a long time ago that I really liked, but those books were all kind of always in my consciousness of having read them so early, and so I never really had a problem with alien characters. I didn't think people, I guess maybe back in the 80s or something, there was more books from an alien perspective, because it didn't seem that odd to me to do that.
That's one of the parts that really fascinated about me, because most books I read, they always throw humans in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But this one, there was no humans, and that was really intriguing to me.
Well, cool.
Stone is one of my favorite characters in this series. Were there any key inspirations for him?
I don't think so. He's kind of, I do tend to like to have good father figures in my books sometimes, and he kind of grew out of that, and then I'm really not sure how that character came together. He just fits so well with Moon, and he just kind of developed as I went along.
When you try to channel his voice, is that usually what you look to as a father figure?
Yeah, or sometimes I use different actors. Though it's really funny when, at least for me, and I think other writers do this too, when you start out imagining an actor for when you're creating a character, at first you're seeing that actor when you're writing, but as you write the book and you develop them in different directions, they sort of eventually become looking like a different person, looking like themselves.
Was there a specific actor's voice you had in mind?
Not really the voice. And actually, when we talk about trying to cast the book, he's always a difficult one. Somebody suggested recently Idris Elba, which, yeah, that would be kind of cool. But I think he's a little bit young. Though kind of with the Raksura, it's kind of hard to, it doesn't matter too much. You can have different ages in there.
After the Harbors of the Sun, any idea what direction your next story might take? Perhaps a different genre or more tie-in work?
I don't know. I don't think it'll be tie-in work. I have a novella on submission that I'm really hopeful about, and I might write more in that world because I really enjoyed it. That was science fiction. And I have an idea for a new fantasy novel, and I've only written maybe the first 5 pages. And I have to write the first 50 pages to see if I can really get it going, and then show it to my agent and see what she thinks. But that's been kind of fun, and I kind of like how that's starting to develop.
And I know you don't really outline very much. Do you still pretty much go without an outline when you do a book?
I do. No, I don't outline hardly at all still. I generally like to have in mind the first plot turn. There's usually the first third of the book you're working toward a certain point, or at least for me, and then the next third you're working toward a certain point. So I'd like to at least know what that first section of the book was working toward. Now, if I don't know that, it's kind of hard to get started. Because really, once you get, that first chapter, really, you have to be aiming towards there. So, and with this, what might be my next fantasy novel, I'd have figured out what that first plot turn is. That lets me get a little bit more started on it.
Now, when you did Star Wars Razor's Edge, I know Del Rey is very heavy on outlines, having those. Was it different having to do an outline for that?
Well, I'd done an outline for
sticking to it.
Yeah, I'd done an outline for the Stargate Atlantis books.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't care as much about you sticking to the outline. It's kind of like they want you to show that you know what you're doing, that you have an idea in mind, but they don't really care about the details. And then in this one, it was really, really difficult to do the outline. It changed quite a bit while I was working on it. So, and that took, I can't remember, it's been so long ago now, I can't remember how long it took, but it was a while. It was very different from anything I'd done before.
Back when that was happening, I had read your Raksura books, and before Razor's Edge had come out, I had found out you wrote some fan fiction. So I actually searched those fanzines out and found some of your Star Wars fanfic, and I actually really enjoyed it.
Oh.
What was it like going from having done fan fiction to doing the real thing as an official novel?
Well, I'd done that before a bit with Stargate Atlantis. I don't think I'd written any fanfic for Stargate Atlantis before I did the books. But it helped me. I had my view of the characters, but it was so long ago I really had to kind of go back. And I actually went back and read some of my fanfic stories so I could, kind of get back into it and think about those characters again. So it's really exciting to do the real thing because, again, it feels like, I'm watching TV for money, People are paying me to do this. And I just mainly really thought that, teenage me would kill me if I didn't take this opportunity to do this book now, because that was kind of, really much a dream back then. I never thought that would actually happen.
Now, on your website, do you have a list anywhere of all your fanfic?
No, I try to keep it separate. So
Is there like a separate site for it?
No. Oh. I just try not to mix those two, because the fanfic is really just for fun. So, it's kind of like you can do anything you want. So. And
with the Princess Leia novel, Razor's Edge, did you toss around any alternate ideas for her adventure?
I think I always wanted to involve the pirates. I always wanted to do a pirate story because that's always something the space pirates. So that's always something I had a lot of fun with, when in science fiction. So I always wanted to be that. I always wanted it to be that, but there was different ways of getting there, basically. And the idea of the sort of pirate controlled mining station came in later, because at first it was something else, and I realized I needed a bigger scope, basically a bigger stage for stuff to happen. So that's how that came about. But it's pretty much the story of there was always going to be pirates involved, and they were always going to be captured at some point or having to infiltrate the pirates. So it didn't change too much, but it was just a lot of details that changed.
And what can fans look forward to next from you?
Right now, it's mainly the Harbors of the Sun. I'm still kind of setting up what I'm going to have come out. That's going to come out in July 2017, and I'm still kind of setting up what's going to come out in July 2018, cross my fingers. So that's it so far.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.